think there's always a balance between addressing the immediate concern that the student is concerned about. You know, I mean, people come to you as golf pros in some sort of pain. You know, they generally don't come and say, hey, I'm playing great, you know, like, let's make it better. Like, they're in pain about something, some part of their game. And I think it's really important to, as much as possible, take in not just the short term, you know, hey, I've got to go out and play in this member guest tomorrow or whatever it might be, and also to take this really holistic view. So things that are important to me to find out about people, in addition to whatever is going on with their game, willingness to do the kind of work that it might take to get them to where they need to be, resilience, all of those unspoken things are really much more important to me than, you know, how's their putting.
Well, would you not agree, Erika, that getting the people to do the work once we've, you know, got them properly mapped is, you know, winning half the battle? But are there any tips or tricks that you use when you're evaluating somebody that helps them kind of motivate them?
I think I'm trying to figure out what kind of person is in front of me. You know, is it more left brain, right brain? And again, how motivated are they? What's the urgency? Why is this happening now? Is there a short-term goal they're working towards? Is it long-term? Is this emergency lesson, or are they more patient? Do they seem like a patient person? Right? Like, you know, and getting to know, try to see their own golf game, why they came to the lesson tee, like try to see it from their perspective and get inside their brain a little bit as a human. I think that's what I'm trying to get a feel of that first lesson. Even it's funny, on the online lessons I've been doing, I ask a few questions and then the student responds back. I give them the opportunity to either send back a video with their verbal response, or they can write a note out, you know, and just post it. And just from the language people use and how they write the note back, how detailed they are, how many stats they throw in, what they want you to know about them. Like this one, you know, lady that I'm teaching wrote a ton about, you know, all these different activities she's into, how she's very well-rounded and very fit. She's very proud of that. She's a hard worker. Like, so right away I knew that she was like willing to do the work and was all in. And then somebody else is talking, you know, maybe has a little more frustrated tone, or you just get a feel for those cues that they give you in the interview, whether it's in person or, you know, remotely. I think that's what I'm always looking for. And a lot of times I do ask about their history in sport. You know, were they an athlete? Because then they understand the process. What level did they play at? If not, then what kind of job do they do? And along the lines of then, once we get past the diagnosis and even the fix, is giving them the plan. How I would give them the plan is going to be customized to the kind of person they are. Like, I'm only going to give little nuggets to somebody that might be super analytical, somebody that's more kind of, you know, right brain, and they're a little more kind of touchy feeling. Maybe the diagnosis or the prescription is a little different. So it's very, very different per person.
Is that the same for you, Mo? Like, it's all about, you know, rapport and relationships with these people, because I've always thought it takes a special person to give up the control of their own game to someone else and allow them to be, you know, allow you to help them get better. You know, so similar to Erika, and that was a great answer, Erika. I love the detail that you were talking about. What are there any other strategies that you use there, Mo, that you know are similar to what Erika does?
Well, it's not surprising to hear Erika say that, because I think those of us that teach for a living and do it with some success, what we're really good at is people skills, right? Is reading people and what they come to you with, right? Obviously the golf part, sure, you have to have an understanding of that and all the, you know, the numbers and TrackMan and this and that. But what we're in is the business of developing people and getting them from point A to point B. So yeah, I think that the process is very similar. The interview process with the student, trying to understand where their background is, where they're coming from, and then just understanding all of the little meta cues that people are giving you and what they're saying. That's I think what really separates great coaching from, you know, people who maybe aren't as great at it.
It reminds me of the time I taught a nuclear physicist, and it took me the whole hour to talk about the grip. Yeah, like I think there was a little bit of detail-oriented person there. I mean, it was really crazy.
Yeah, right.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure we've all had, we've had we could tell some great stories about different people where, I mean, one of my best lessons ever was this professional field hockey player that came from Belgium, and her first golf lesson, she was hitting driver like, 200 yards and never had played golf before. But, the movement of field hockey and stuff, her athleticism was just off the charts. And I know that those are two opposite ends of the spectrum, but I mean, the really cool part is what are some of your key points that you, like, I always thought that a rule of three, you want to kind of like have them have three things that they're walking away with, because anything more and they might, get a little bit too misconstrued, or they might not understand exactly what they're trying to do. When that person's walked away from their lesson, Erika, what are you leaving them with?
I want them to leave understanding understanding why we're doing what we're doing. I want them to know what to expect when they go practice. So for example, they know what a good outcome is going to look like, but they also know maybe why, if they missed it, how they can self-help, right? Help themselves diagnose ball flight and misses in the learning process. So I want them to feel like they're going to leave being prepared and having some insight into coaching themselves. So I always try to get people during the lesson, when we're practicing the fix, whatever that is, and we're doing drills and so forth, when they do miss one, for them to regurgitate to me, okay, so you missed that one. Why did you miss it? The ball went that way. Why? Like, I want them to explain it back to me. So there's a lot of that kind of dialogue that happens, if not, halfway through the lesson, definitely towards the end, so that I know that they can help themselves when I'm not standing there, and they're not at a loss. They won't give up on the process. So they're prepared for what the misses might be and what a good miss is. Okay, so it's going right, but that's actually a good sign that you're doing something right now. It's different than what you were doing. So giving them like that confidence that, and an expectation of what the process might look like for that next week or two that I'm not seeing them.
That's great. I love the fact that you give them an expectation, because often I think they can walk away from a lesson and they're like going, okay, so when it goes good, what should I see? Right. And it's like, right. That's a key element for a coach. You got to have them walk away. How about you, Mo? What is it that what are they walking away with?
I mean, I think very similar to Erika, in the sense that my goal is always for them to understand the overall process. What is the arc going to look like for you? You're over here and you're trying to get here. And so, what are the misses going to look like? We're trying to, let's say we're trying to fix, I don't know, whatever, the slice or something, what percentage of the time should they really expect to see the ball flight that they want, right? And so if they don't, because I think students want to see it like, oh, I understand it. They want to see it 100% of the time. We all know that's not possible. So the more realistic their expectations can be, the more bought into the process they can be. So I think quite similar. And I always like to say, I'm trying to make myself obsolete, right? A coach is never going to be obsolete, but I want you to be your own best teacher. Just like Erika said, I want you to know yourself. If you come back to me for your next lesson and you say, why does this happen? Why did that happen? Then I didn't do a very good job.
That's a great point. Self assessment and being self-aware, being a little self-actualized learning, right? Relying on yourself on how, like, you've been given a task, you've been given a thing. If you're doing it correctly, here are your expectations of what should happen. If you're not, well, give me some feedback when you come back on the lesson tee. If you go out and expect that it's going to be perfect every time, well, those are expectations that, we often run into a little too often with all our, right? It's like, we're down here, they're kind of like, way up here. Right, exactly.
I love getting the question the last 1 minute of the lesson. Oh, so I was gonna play golf tomorrow with some friends. Do you think I should still play?
That's awesome. Oh my God, that's fantastic. That's that. Yes.
How do you answer that?
Oh, well, good luck.
My favorite is, I have a lesson I have a tea time in 15 minutes. Like,
oh yeah, that's like it. I say, well, you're taking what? Why didn't you tell me this? Like, honestly, well, you know what? You're probably going to play horribly. And it's like, oh my gosh, so funny. So this is interesting. This runs right into some interesting points. So, I was listening to Trillium had Jim McLean on last week, and he dropped a bombshell of a nugget that I was like, wow. All right. He says, you know, all these guys out here, these guys have a messiah complex. They're the savior of this game of golf. They've researched it. They know what's going on. They have the absolute answer for your golf, and you should listen to me because I know all, right? And it really does. I mean, if you took a step back and really looked at a lot of this, he's not far off, because essentially all we're trying to do as coaches is take a shovel with a ball, make it go a certain distance, and go in the right direction, hopefully, right? And I think, you know, how have we gone from Harvey Penick's Little Red Book to, no offense, Brian, Alpha, Beta, Gamma? Like, I mean, so what do you think? Do you think there's any merit to what Jim says here, where there's a bit too much of a messiah complex that everybody thinks they figured it out because of all this technology? Or is this just the evolution of golf? Erika, wait.
I think that golf pros fought over golf swings since day one. You know, I think there was always controversial stuff. And from what I heard, I don't have a source to say this, but there were actually fistfights amongst golf pros, like back in the, you know, turn of the century and so forth, like legitimately, like stories about fistfights, right? So we're still having those fistfights. They're just virtually now. They're happening on Facebook forums and so forth. So for what it's worth, I just think that it's good, healthy debate, and it has to happen, because then at the end of the day, we're all searching for truth. So the research that's being done, whether it's in one camp or the other, whether we're talking about, you know, Jacob Streety and Como or whoever, whatever, doesn't matter.
Sasho and Jacob Streety, yeah.
Yeah, whoever, or maybe it's stack and tilt versus one plane swing, or whatever, like whatever the camps are that are out there. So be it. Everybody has their own method. If it works for your students and you're getting results, then just keep teaching what you want to teach. And guess what? You know, I mean, if you look at other industries, whether it's fitness or the medical profession or pharmaceuticals or whatever, everybody has the magic pill. That's what sales and marketing is. So the face that those different camps put out to the world has to be that. You have to sell it that you're the messiah. How are you going to attract students to believe in you? So I think there's nothing wrong with putting a message out there that you feel strongly about what you believe in and what you research, like period, the end. So say whatever you want to say, teach whatever you want to teach, because there's going to be somebody that it works for. And by all means, then you're the messiah for that person. Now, in reality, is what you're teaching one size fits all? If it's very methodological, then probably not, right? When you look at some of the sciencey stuff that's happening right now in our industry with those other things we were talking about, like they're debating forces and torques and what's happening in the golf swing, and they have technology, one technology saying this, one technology saying that, how the technologies are even, you know, built, and the software and the algorithms, they're using different formulas, they're trying to figure it out. And the issue in golf in that regard is that we're not a peer-reviewed industry at like in medicine. And so therefore you don't have this sort of unbiased party coming in and playing referee, right? So that's where there ends up being all this debate that goes sort of undecided.
Unfounded, yeah, no.
Undecided.
It's like I remember when I taught my golf swing fundamentals class for 16 years. I taught at a college to a professional golf management course, and the very first day I would always say, one thing about the golf swing is it's opinion based, like golf instruction. It's all opinion based, right?
All anecdotal. It's all anecdotal.
Right. I mean, what's really interesting, and Mo, we'll get to you in a second, but what's really interesting is that's coming from, you know, Jim McLean, highly, you know, probably one of the most, you know, successful coaches, teachers, instructors between the 80s and 90s, who, you know, I would probably say that if we went back to, you know, when he was in his heyday and at the top of his game, and I'm not saying Jim McLean golf schools aren't anymore, but like when he was a household name, it was him, you know, Jim Flick and David Ledbetter and, you know, Butch Harmon, and, you know, they all had their own theories, and everybody had their own. Were they not considered messiahs as well? So it's a very interesting debate. I just love hearing the point. So I mean, Erika was getting all fired up there, which I love. That was awesome. How about you, Mo? What do you think?
I mean, I, you know, as you point out, right? So you have your McLeans, your Ledbetters, and Harmons and stuff, and they all seem to sort of play well in their own camps, right? I mean, I'm sure there was trash talking. I think, you know, I think the bigger the change is that we see it now on an everyday basis, right? You can just click on a comment and all of a sudden, you know, it's there and everybody can read it. And I think these online forums, and I have to say, I hope to God that the average golfer is not reading what's going on in these forums. I think there's room for healthy debate. I think that there's good things to be taken from each of these places. And I think there's no one way in the golf swing. I think most, if not all of us, are really striving hard to find the thing that helps our students the best. So I think healthy debate is great. I think, you know, some of the things that go on in the forums are not healthy and not productive and, you know.
No, it's definitely more of a, excuse my language, a little bit of a peeing contest, right? And it's, you know, it's like, I really like to know, I ask this question to a lot of pros, and thank you for your answers, because I mean, it really, honestly, truly, it really boils down to the fact, if you have a proper understanding that the golf swing and how you facilitate it is up to you, the instructor. And if you've gone and researched yourself and you've gone and put yourself in front of a lot of people, right? I like this saying. I think a good instructor has one or two methods that they use that they pull from. I think a great instructor, a great coach is someone that has multitude of people, have gone, seen multiple people. They have a multitude of ways to get people better. And I mean, heck, if we can't figure it out from there, we'll just go on Erika's Instagram and steal all of her golf tips, because, you know, people, if you don't follow her on Instagram, you need to. Anyways, I'll get back to that in a second. Seriously, Larkin, the imagination runs amok. I love it. It's great. Exactly. It's so fantastic. What do you got there?
I think what we have to agree on as coaches is, and this is what can be actually measured now, whether you're using gears or some other software or biomechanics or whatever, is if I put the club in a certain position and I pull on it in a certain direction, what's happening? Where does the club want to move in space when I do something with my body, or when the club is being pulled or pushed in a certain direction? What does that do to the club face? What does that do to the rotation of the club? And regardless of, you know, there's going to be answers to that. There's going to be truthful data and answers to that at some point. We all will have to agree on cause and effect. How you fix it is still the art of coaching and teaching. And then how you fix it, how you want to frame the swing for that person that's standing in front of you, how you want to explain it, what drill you give them, that's up to the coach, right? But hopefully you're solving it in a way that does make sense for how the person can move, and then physically get the club to rotate and square up the way it needs to hit the ball better and straighter, farther, whatever the.
Yeah.
That's it.
No,
that's all.
I agree.
How can we disagree on cause and effect?
You can't. That's the science that's actually measurable, which is, I mean, you bring up a really good point.
If I stand up, where's the club going to move in space? Can we all agree that it's going to go in a certain direction? Like, if I have rotation or if I don't have rotation, the club's going to go behind me or it's going to go in front of me. Like,
right. Well, you're bringing, boy, I think I got a hot button going on. I need a hot button. Boom. Larkin's on fire.
There's
so
just laws.
This is great.
Can happen, you know?
No, you're right. It absolutely can. So and this is just flowing awesome. So online or in person, how do we communicate this? This is so important. The communication of the best coaches, the best instructors, the ones that can get the message across, and it's really done in a nice, easy way for people to understand. So similar to how you guys talked about your students on you figuring out how they best work, what are your 3 must-dos or must-haves to ensure that your client has a successful session with you, whether it's online or offline, Mo?
Well, I think it's very similar to that question before. I think, and I would just tag on to what Erika was saying. You know, there are people. Look, I've studied a lot. I've seen a lot in my career. Not everything. I would never say I know everything about the golf swing, but you know, I know what I know. There's always going to be people who know more or study more than you. But I think what makes me a great coach is that I get people to do it, right? So I have ways, techniques, things that I've developed over the course of my teaching career, as we all do, all successful coaches do, where I think I can use various techniques of, you know, whatever you want to, drills or persuasion or mental techniques to get people to actually embrace the changes that we want to see in a golf swing. So you've got to get buy-in from your students, right? That's a skill and art of a good coach, is getting your student to buy in. Because because someone shows up on a lesson tee doesn't mean they want to do what you want them to do, right?
Yep.
And really tap into what is motivating the person. I think if you, as the coach, can figure out what's motivating the person to change, to find that pain point, then you've got a much better shot at it. So every lesson looks different for me, just in what I'm trying to give to people. But I think at the end of the day, being successful is giving people what they want, right? Getting them either the ball flight that they want, or getting them on a program that is going to eventually get them that ball flight.
So in the communication side of things, do you use like a video system like Coach Now, or do you use something else where they can go and see their drills, or they can send you a video that you can get and see their progress?
So often, I still use 2D video. I think students are really quite attached to that,
Sure.
in some ways. So I definitely use that. I also use other technology, right? TrackMan, launch monitors. We don't have force plates, but various things, radar detectors, all kinds of technological things. And I generally wrap all that up into the end of a lesson. I have started using Coach Now, which I think has been a great platform, especially during the time of COVID, let's say. I generally either send someone away with a video directly with some sort of voiceover, or I send it that night. So
Right.
It's a good
Okay.
thing.
I mean, Eric, do you use something like that's in that communication realm? Like, do you use a locker for your students, or like, what are those 3 things that you try to do to make sure when they walk away, they've got the ability to communicate with you and you've communicated with them?
Yeah, I actually use Coach Now. Have used it for a bunch of years, and very simply during the lesson, whatever footage I took early in the lesson, like a baseline for that day, or maybe it's a new student, it's just our baseline. I'll take video throughout the lesson, little clips here and there, and I find something that is going to make a good comparison. So we're looking at video a lot of times during the lesson. At some point, maybe I save it for the end. Maybe it happens in the beginning. It really just depends. But there's usually a viewing together where I'm explaining and then showing progress, potentially even during the lesson. This is what you were doing. This is how it looks now. Can you see that you're on the right track? And then sometimes I'll screen record it right there as I'm explaining it, and then that's what gets sent. Sometimes I'll do it at the end of the lesson or at the end of the day. I'll go home and just do a bunch of screen records and post those. And other times too, it's like I'll just turn my camera on as I'm in the process of explaining something to the student live, and whatever I'm recording, or I put the phone quickly on a tripod or something, just let the camera roll, and I'll just post that to their training space. So they almost have a copy of like what we did live in the lesson. Sometimes when the student says something, like they might have a feel for a drill we were doing, or, oh, that felt really good. I'll be like, okay, hold on a second. I'll turn the camera and I'll be like, say that again. What did you feel? Explain to me, like that. And so just let them, like, capturing the student in the moment, post it to their page. So I kind of like get those little nuggets from the lesson. I've been doing more of that. I used to only do the swing voiceover recaps. Now I like post a lot of stuff from in the lesson, and they love it because they feel like they can go back. It's like they get the lesson all over again.
That's a great point. I've used that as well. You just put it on record and away it goes, and you work with them in their lesson. You show, it's almost like they get to see what they're working on. And it's a really interesting point. Have either of you ever listened to yourselves give a lesson and thought about it afterwards and gone, whoa, I sound like that? Or, man, I didn't realize I was like, my body language was like that, because our communication skills are so tied up in our body language and our facial expressions, right? I mean, you're saying, I'm not wearing a mask because like they can't see my face when I react. Yeah. Very good point. But I've actually had that done. I actually had somebody videotape me, and then we went through it, and I actually looked at, how I was coaching. And, it's very hard to watch yourself and be critical against yourself. Have either of you done that?
Yeah. I mean, I think social media has been a great way to make that happen. You know, I think with all the filming that we each do with drills or whatever, I mean, I think you have to, and I think just to be a good coach, you have to as well. And you have to be aware of what your particular strengths are and your weaknesses are. And I thought it was very interesting, actually, Erika, that you were talking about masks before. I actually don't wear sunglasses during lessons. I don't like, I mean, to me, communication with a student is so important, and I don't like that to be blocked by sunglasses, even though it's super bad for my eyes. You know, the mask thing is interesting. You know, New York is funny, so we'll see what has to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I turn the camera on bits and pieces. I usually don't let it run the entire lesson. So I probably should do that more often. I don't, but it's good. It definitely, when I have done it in the past or let it roll for 15 or 20 minutes and look back on it, it just takes time to watch back all the playback. So,
who has all that time? Who has all that time to do that?
I wish I had more time.
No
to watch
way.
the
I mean,
playback.
you gotta go home and shoot a whole bunch of Instagram movies, right?
That's
It's
right.
like, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Your acting skills are strong. Very
well,
strong.
I tell you, the blooper reels. I'm sure our blooper reels would fill up a few hours of stuff, right? I mean, it's like, and it's like okay, I got to redo that all over again. And
when the video is finished and I finish editing it, I save a copy to like my Google Drive or Dropbox, and I delete everything. I delete all the old footage, so I don't save. I just move on.
Good for you. I don't want anybody getting a hold of that stuff, right? Exactly.
I used to like do takes. I would like do it, you know, I'd like turn the camera on and then I'd do it and I'd be like, oh, damn it, you know, and then I would go around and I would turn it off. Now I don't even stop between takes. I'm just like, oh, okay, like reset, you know, like do the tape. So now I have one big long recording that edits it out. But yeah, I mean, you get better at it, right? So we don't take it doesn't take nearly as many takes now to do things as it did before. So yeah.
Well, that's some great, I mean, you know what, guys, great communication ideas and all that stuff. All right. So my favorite time in my chats, and you guys don't know these questions that are coming. All right. So they're going to be the same question for both of you. So one of you are going to get a chance to think about it as I come into you. So it's my fast five. All right. I had 3 when I sent you, but I actually have 5 now because we have one less person. All right. So I'm going to start with you, Erika. Mo, you're going to get a chance to think about this one. All right. Name the title of the movie of your life, Erika.
Oh my God. Oh God. A laugh a day keeps the doctor away.
Fantastic. That's awesome. What a great title. All right, Mo.
That's good. God. You know, you've asked these questions before, people. I don't know why I'm not prepared for this.
Jeez, man. You gotta think something's coming.
I did try to think of what might be coming for me. I didn't see that one. The title of the movie of my life.
Monique Mondays. What are you like? It's so easy.
It could be, but I was thinking like, you know, she left it all in the dust, or something like no stone unturned.
Like that.
You know,
left it in the dust. That's
left
cool.
it in the dust.
All right, Mo. So who's your hero to you?
That's so broad, Doug. I mean,
well, let's go. Who's your hero for getting you to where you are?
Wow, I mean, the list of people who have mentored me in my career, like it's actually pretty sobering when I think about it.
Me too.
Yeah, two big mentors. I mean, I think I'd have to say my first one, because this is the guy that gave me my first real shot in the business, would be Michael Breed, Uncle Mike.
Wow, there you go. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, he really took an interest in me and I think set me in a really good direction.
That's good enough. That's great. That's a big one. I like that. That's great.
Yeah, Uncle Mike.
Uncle Mike. There you go. All right, Erika, you've had a chance to think about it. Who's yours?
I would say it's a tie between my dad and my husband, probably, because my dad just set such a great example of being a passionate learner his whole life. And he's a chef by trade, but I mean, I can't remember a night where there wasn't a cooking show on and a stack of magazines that he was looking at. And he's still, to this day, he's creative. He's creating something, coming up with new ideas, trying new things he heard about. Like he found a passion, and like it has lasted him his lifetime and more. Like it's evolved for him. So he's been such a great role model in that regard. And I kind of didn't know that was going to be the case for me. I didn't, I knew what it looked like to have a passion, but then when I knew coaching and teaching was my passion, and then I found myself totally engulfed in wanting to always learn. And I look at him, I said, this is like the same thing. So I think just whether I got that from him or I'm just lucky enough to have had him as a role model to show that. And he just was always encouraging and pushing and loving. And my husband, same thing. Like for him, he just is such a good visionary, big vision. Always told me, just go for it. And like, I've got your back and think bigger. Always wants me to think bigger. So, just, I think his encouragement and the ability for me to just like take some risks and stuff has been really, really, I'm really lucky.
That's awesome. Well, those are great answers, guys. And I really like to hear those, because it comes from both sides. It's a big, broad question, but it's like some people know it, boom, my dad or, my husband, like right away. Some people like you, Mo, it's just like, oh, who can I think of? I've had so many, people help me. And that's really what it is. And it's such a really cool answer to see what you get. All right, Erika, what is the genre of music that best describes your golf swing?
My golf swing. Okay.
Yeah, your own golf swing. What's the genre of music? Is it hard rock? Is it punk? Is it like, is it smooth jazz? Is it like,
I was kind of gonna say smooth jazz, but I don't really like smooth. It's not something I, turn the radio to all the time.
No.
You, Erika. No.
Yeah, I would say smooth jazz. I just, I've always, me, true swing, flow motion. I'm all about the rhythm and the tempo and the balance and how that makes so much for good mechanics and good swing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, either that or I don't know. Yeah, swing, jazz, big band. Like that's just a favorite genre of anyway.
Smooth.
So
nice. Yeah. All right, Mo, you're on.
Little Kenny G for Erika there.
Yeah, there you go. Little Kenny G.
Yeah, I am a big jazz lover. So I'm gonna have to go with jazz, but I'm probably in my AirPods though. I'm probably listening to like hip hop or gangster rap or something.
Oh wow, cool. Me, it's like I'm at like some rave all day long. Like it's like Tiesto playing in my headphone. That's my golf swing all day. Like,
but I'm swinging like like John Coltrane or something.
Oh, not me. Yeah. It's as fast. It's like a elephant wrestling with a lawn chair. Seriously. Great. It's so fast. Anyways, all right. So Mo, what are your can't go without when you travel? You can't leave home without it.
Traveling for golf or just travel?
Just travel.
Okay. I think I can't leave without the iPad, and books of some kind of reading material. Cool. I really do. I think that's one of the negative things about our jobs is that I just don't get to read for pleasure as much. I'm always reading, but it's not for Monique time. So
there you go. How about you, Erika? If you go to travel, what's your must-have take with you?
Yeah, my phone. I live on it for work and for obviously teaching and social and communicating with my family. It's like pictures, everything. So it's definitely it'd be hard to travel these days without it. Right? It has your wallet on it. It's everything.
It is.
Other than that, just like sort of my basic job kit, like as in cosmetic bag, like just the core essentials of like skincare and mascara and lipstick, like just like the basic, because you hate to get somewhere. If I was to like get somewhere and realize I forgot my cosmetic bag, the first thing I would do is be going to the drugstore and like trying to replace my stuff. Like that's kind of the basic. I don't know what else. Everything, because again, it's so digital now, books and everything I want to listen to, everything I want to read is there. But so I would say like, yeah, probably my like Apple Music subscription. I really do enjoy traveling with music and having that as a point of relaxation.
That's great. Funny story. I was actually going to the PGA show last year, not this year, last year. So I was going to fly out of Buffalo. So we were going to go early, go have lunch at PF Chang's. We're on the Peace Bridge, which it goes between Fort Erie and Buffalo. And it was down to one lane on either side. And a pickup truck threw its tranny at the top, and we had no place to go. we sat there for an hour, and so I'm sitting there, a half hour goes by, and I go, oh, I should, check my flight. I left my phone at home.
Oh.
What are the chances of you leaving your phone at home, right? And I know exactly where I left it. So we went for lunch. I canceled my flight, went home, and flew out that night. Like, it was like, but yeah, I can sympathize. Panic sets in when I said, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Right. And I knew I'd left it at home. So, I mean, that's a crazy story. But I can totally sympathize with you, Erika. All right. Last one.
I would drive back home too.
I did. Yes. All right. Last one, Erika. What's your absolute favorite sweet of all time to have?
Chocolate. Anything chocolate.
Anything chocolate.
Anything
all right.
Chocolate ice cream if I had to pick.
Oh, good. Yeah, I like that. Mo?
I'd have to go with chocolate, but it would have to be like a salted caramel thing. Not opposed to nuts in the chocolate. Some kind of caramel, some kind of sea salty thing for sure.
Nice. Mine, I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of a big fan of pralines down in South Carolina. I was telling Brandy Jackson, I said, why did you when did you guys create these, and why are they so addictive? Like, I gained like 15 pounds when I go to Charleston. Go get a box for myself. Yes. All right. Those were fantastic answers, guys. Thanks so very much. So here's my really cool question. All right. So women are hugely important to the future and survival of golf. I totally believe this. In a recent study, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but the Club Managers Society in the U.S. stated that the health of a golf club can be seen by how many junior girls are members. The reason they say this is because when the junior girl's a member, okay, mom is typically a member as well, and will either be taking lessons or hanging out at the club or doing something. If they would had a son, they wouldn't stick around. They drop the son off and they leave. So it's an interesting point with all these wonderful programs, LPGA Girls Golf, and all these programs boosting girls into this game. All right. How do you think we can keep doing better to grow this game for girls and make it better for them, and then they are going to be following in your footsteps? Mo, take it away.
I have to say, and it is, you and I met on social, and I've known you and you've known me as a predominantly junior coach, right? I mean, I certainly coach adults. So junior coaching for me is just a huge passion. It's a huge part of who I am and what I do, really to the core, not just like as a job. And that's an interesting fact. I didn't know that about the health of a club. Yeah, I mean, what are we going to do to keep it going? I mean, juniors are the lifeblood. They're the lifeblood of clubs and of the game of golf. If we don't do a good job as golf professionals of getting kids passionate about the game, we're gonna be out of existence as a profession, if you will. We need to do a better job of making the first few touch points really positive ones for kids. And I think when you look at, it's such an awesome responsibility, really, when you're the first coach of someone, and even if it's just a junior clinic, that they come to once a week or something, the way that you can make a kid feel about golf, or anyone really, about golf and their first touch experience is everything. And so we can't send our least experienced coaches in there. We can't send nothing against interns, because they're going to grow up and be great golf professionals someday. But we, as the more experienced coaches, we need to be responsible for that, because that's how awesome the responsibility is. And I don't mean great, like it is a great responsibility, but it's awe-inspiring what a responsibility it is.
100%. I have to agree with you. It's so important that the first exposure to the game is a positive one. I mean, Rich Franklin at Discover Golf is doing some pretty interesting things with how not even looking at as a golf pro kind of environment. Really different. If Christy was on here, she'd be touting this like there'd be no tomorrow, because she's quite the big fan. And I am too. I mean, I'm a big fan of Kate Tempesta. Kate's one of my good friends, and she runs such an amazing intro into golf with early birdies and stuff like that. Erika, what do you think are some of these strategies that we need to keep working on to ensure we have a plethora of young women moving forward through this game?
It definitely is something that I've seen at clubs I've worked at where it's a snowball effect. It's hard when there's one girl and then the rest are boys. If that one girl has a buddy, it makes all the world of difference, so that social aspect of having a couple of females in the group or a girls only program does seem to boost the morale and the attraction for girls to want to join in the early stages. Once you get to a certain point, then if they're kind of in the game, they're a little older at this point, maybe preteen or teen, we don't want to lose them, right? That's the tricky age where sometimes they get pulled away by other activities they're more into. How can we keep them in the game at that point if they haven't reached the super competitive level? They're in that netherworld between social golf and competitive golf. That's where we lose them. So I think that's the area to focus in on. And the only tip I have is to try to, as the coach, as the leader of the facility, you and the professional staff, is to bring them into your operation in a way that they become junior coaches. They become junior captains for the junior league team. You bring them in, maybe you can woo them with some kind of some kind of prize. You can't pay them monetarily, but there's a volunteer community service you can sign off on or something, where then now they become a leader and something that the younger girls are looking up to. They become little coaches. So they, somehow get empowered that way to take a leadership role within the club, within the junior golf world at your facility, that makes them feel like they're more indebted.
Well, that's a great idea. To actually dovetail off of that, at the PGA of Canada, we run this program called Community Golf Coach. I'm actually a facilitator in Ontario, and there's facilitators across the country. Our job is to go and train participants in how to be trained in junior golf. I actually had a young man, as an example. He was 16. I paid half it was $300, right, to register for the program. I paid half, he paid half. So that was my skin in the game. So when he did it, he actually went through the 2 days. He was trained in community golf, and he is now a trained, certified. He can go, and you can leave him with a junior program because he's gone through all the ethical coaching. He's gone through understanding that, kids at the age of 8 don't have, develop sweat glands and, heat exhaustion. It's an amazing program because it's 2 days, and it talks about how to safely set up programs and all this stuff. But the really interesting thing, and I'm coming back to what you said about, it's the buy-in from the clubs to allow accessibility of kids to get onto the golf course or be at the golf course. Our kids here in high schools have to do a certain amount of hours, 40 hours of volunteer work, and they get certification for this. If the club were to invest in these kids to be to take this community golf coach program, what happens is they get actually $1 million insurance through the PGA of Canada and Golf Canada, which is their national amateur body. It's a co-branded insured thing. So there's insurance so that if you're leaving them by themselves with a group of, say 8-year-olds, and they're 16, and a kid gets teeth knocked out, you're covered insurance-wise, right? And it's a really interesting program. And so I really like what I hear, because I think that it's true. Accessibility is such an important thing for kids, because I don't believe that they get in trouble on a golf course, and especially for girls. If girls feel safe, if they feel like they've got their friends, just like you said, Erika, right? It's going to want them to be there more often. But it's such our responsibility as the coaches to help them be inspired to do that, because they do have so many other distractions, right?
Yep.
And I think, to dovetail on that, girls only programs are really important. We just know that they are. Based on, studies and anecdotally things have been done. But I think it's really important too that we get girls to see other women golf professionals, right?
I agree.
There just aren't enough of us. And so there has to be a better job of recruiting women into the LPGA, the PGA programs, PGA of Canada, so that girls can see that, because there's still a shocking amount of facilities that don't have a single woman on staff where girls can see there's somebody else like this. Visibility is everything. You talk about women in golf month. This is it. It's all about visibility.
Ooh, you want to jump in on that, Erika? I have something to say. I could keep going on that route, and I'm going to wait and see what your answer is.
No, I think the conversation is great, and I think girls seeing other female professionals at a facility is definitely inspiring. I've had a few gals I taught years ago that, did pursue golf through college and then now are getting in the business, like, because I was a role model for them. They told me that. It's really, really rewarding, so there's definitely a correlation there. How can we get more women to become PGA professionals? When women come out of college golf, there's an opportunity there for those players who are already in a perfect position to take a jump into our industry and become PGA professionals. So why aren't they? That's the question. Is it because it's a tough lifestyle to have as a female? Because you're going to be working on weekends and holidays, because the pay is crappy when you're a young professional and you could be making a lot more money getting into a job where you actually have maybe your degree in, like, you just are burnt out on golf at that point. You don't want to be around it anymore. Like, why are women leaving golf when they get done with school? That's a question.
That's a great question. Do you think so? We've recently shifted in Canada in our PGA that if you want to pursue your career in golf, you can choose the pathway. So that means you don't have to go and do turf management if you want to be a golf coach. If you want to be a operations person, you can just go take operations stuff. You don't have to go and run through the whole gambit of being like understanding, like, how to run a pro shop, right? So we've come up with these pathways where you can select where you're going. And I'm feigning a little bit, ignorance here about the PGA and their processes with and the LPGA, but is there a way that you can go into just a teaching vein when you get into the PGA in America, or do you have to do it all?
It's evolving. I don't know the answer to that exactly. I can tell you that you still have to have a well-rounded education at this point. And then, of course, once you get through your Class A certification, you can get other certifications in specific areas like teaching and merchandising. So then you become a certified professional in a specific track. But I think like the main Class A certification that everybody's working towards as a PGM student or as a assistant professional is just to get your Class A status, and you have to go through all the different topics. Still, I'm pretty sure. Susie Whaley would be the one to ask.
I was waiting for that one.
You're gonna get your question answered, but it is evolving though, Erika. You're right. It used to be like business school 1, business school 2, and now it's the focus is more on, or I should say, as I understand it, the PGA is putting more of an emphasis on, operations and teaching and I still think, and I think the LPGA, I'm not an LPGA member. That's something I'm probably going to start to work towards, just because I think the organization is fantastic, and I know their core studies are much more teaching involved. So I think they have done a pretty good job recognizing as an industry that that's the area where they're really going to be able to impact people. So the programs are evolving, but I think where we are right now is pretty much still a pretty general background.
Okay, cool. Well, the really interesting thing here is you guys have we've covered a wide spectrum, everything from teaching, coaching, and how you build communications to some of the stuff. And if I could get just a couple last thoughts about technology. And I know, Erika, you mentioned you use TrackMan. Mo, I think you said you have TrackMan as well, right? Is there anything else that you guys think is probably one of the better things you should use as a coach that will help you and your players, other than TrackMan?
I'm starting to use some more stats. I'm going to be using GameForge this season more with my students and having them register for that. So that will be an addition. It's technology because obviously there's AI there, and looking at the numbers and then assigning protocols for practice and stuff is going to be part of something new I'm doing. But in terms of diagnostic on the lesson tee technology, we use TrackMan. We're going to be having a learning center, and there'll be ability to have more toys there.
Cool.
I hope that, we get some biofeedback piece. I don't know if that will be K-Vest or gears or what it'll be, but it'll probably be something at some point. And I'll just have to do more research on what one of those systems makes the most sense for our club. But I would love to add that to the list for certain times that you want to measure things or just show and prove from certain players you're being a little more nitpicky on. But
Cool.
I've taught without it this long, so.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. I think, you know, I think the technology is really great because it helps you quantify a little bit better and really pinpoint some things. I still, it totally does not take the place of being a really good coach or having a good eye and seeing things. I think that you got to get that from being in the trenches and teaching a lot of golf. Mo, what about you? Is there anything that you're using or you'd like to use in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I use a stats program too. I think GameForge is really interesting. I have been using Shot by Shot, which I've used personally for a number of years, and I think is pretty cool. I mean, technology. It's so funny in my life. Like, I'm so not an early adopter of technology. Like, you know, but in terms of golf, like all of it, like bring it on. If there's a teaching aid out there, I'm the first one to get it. I buy everything. You should see my basement and you should see my teaching studio. It's shocking to say the least. You'll want to be in my will to get that when I die. But,
Gary Wyron's going to ask for all the stuff back. Never mind.
Because you know what? You can't predict. I'm just such a big teacher of feel, or I should say, I strive to get people to feel changes, and everybody's feels different, obviously, right? So that's why I have a bazillion teaching aids, because everybody feels it differently and everybody's going to connect with something different. So probably rather than a piece of technology, even though I'll say like buy all of it, it's going to be some kind of teaching aid that works for that student. And I got a few faves, but yeah.
Well, you know what? I really can't thank you guys enough. I mean, an hour goes by like that, and it's really amazing. But just want you guys to hang still while I kill this live stream. But I want to say thanks everybody who tuned in on Facebook to see this wonderful chat with these three. Sorry, yeah, I'm counting by myself. These two wonderful ladies, great women coaches, leaders in their industry. Monique Thoresz, Erika Larkin. I thank you very much, and guys, keep up the amazing work. You guys did fantastic. Thanks again.
Thanks,
right.
Doug. Thanks.
Right. I killed the live stream. There we go. All right. So now we're still up though. Hold on. Stop.